Right. Good evening, everyone. So yesterday we learned about TypeScript data types. In TypeScript data types, we learned about how to use primitive types, how to use non-primitive types. In non-primitive types, we started discussing about arrays. Array, right? We learned about how to deal with array. First thing what we learned, arrays are used for reducing overhead and complexity. What is overhead? What is overhead? Overhead is an issue with memory, where memory is available and you cannot use. That is actually overhead, right? And how it can reduce overhead? So array can store values in a sequential order. This point we learned. Arrays can store multiple values, under specified name. So they will reduce the complexity and they will reduce the overhead. And one more point we discussed about declaring array, and we discussed about initialization and assignment of memory, right? Initialization and assignment of memory for array. For that we have two meta character and we have array constructor, right? What is difference between them? What is difference between array meta character and array constructor? Array meta character allows any type, but array constructor will not allow to initialize any type even when the data type is any. Right? So these two basic things we discussed, and we learned that arrays in TypeScript can handle similar type, can handle various types. Array size can be changed dynamically, which is not possible in other languages. So the purpose of array and how do we configure array. Now next, today we will see how we can storing values into array. How we can store values into array. Actually, here again one concept is very important. That means what we done. So here you have two options. You can initialize values into array, or another option is you can assign values into array. You can initialize values, you can assign values. Two options are there. If you are initializing, then directly you can store the values. When you are assigning, values are assigned by using array property name. Values are assigned by using array property name. Actually, array property name is used for assigning. I will tell you one more thing, what you don't know clearly actually. Means what you misunderstand actually. I will tell you one more clarity here. Actually, when you are learning about arrays, one more thing is different. What is that is, generally, suppose here we are creating an array So here we are creating an array, LET categories. It is a string type array. Into that, we are initializing memory. Memory initialization can be array constructor or meta character. After that, we want to store values into array. Suppose when memory is allocated, actually the memory is allocated for array in this way. The memory is allocated in this way for array, and this memory is, its name is categories, right? Memory is allocated by the name categories. And now in the memory, there will be several divisions actually. The memory has several divisions. The memory has several divisions. Every division actually have a index number. That means it will have a index number 0 and index number 1 and index number 2. Actually, these are memory index. Memory index number will be there. This is only what you generally know. But what you don't know is actually this memory index have a reference property name. We will have 0 string type, 1 string type, and 2 string type. This is actually memory property name. To store a value into array or to read value from array, actually we use properties. You think index. Generally you think index, but actually we use property. The property looks like index, but it is not index. Let's prove this point. We will prove this point, right? For example, see here, I'm showing you a simple example just to show you the proof of that concept. Actually, suppose you have some our project. Let's go to the project here. Okay, TypeScript project. So here I will just show you one small concept about array, then I will get into that here. Now see, this is categories string type. Now observe here, actually it is not this one, TypeScript file. Yeah. So now what we are doing is we are creating LET categories is a string type array. Into that memory is initialized. Now we are writing like this, categories of 0. Now generally when I ask what is this 0, then you will say index number. That means you are saying that 0 is a number. Am I right? Let's do one thing. In that, what I am storing some name as electronics. Okay. Now see here, I am using categories of 1, and I will say, suppose let's keep this any type. Any type means I can store some number 10. Okay. And categories of 2. This is Boolean true or false. That means now generally in your all technologies, you have learned that arrays values are stored by using index number, and 0, 1, 2 are index numbers. My point is I am saying that they are not index numbers. They are not index numbers. So they are property names. Property names will have same name as index number. Actually, they are not numbers, they are string. 0 string, 1 string, 2 string. Let's see that here. I will show you here. See, categories of 3 I am typing is equal to, suppose in that I am storing some value. I am storing some footwear. Okay. Now this should show error if it is index number. Na? Am I right? That means it should show this error. If according to you 0, 1, 2 are index number, it should show error. But see here, now I am using console.log. I am just printing all the categories as of now temporarily. Observe carefully here. Later we will learn other methods also. Let's compile this. So for your visual sake, I will compile in a separate command prompt. You can directly compile in terminal when you are practicing. For your visual sake, I am using this tsc index.ts. And we have node index.js, node index.js. And you can see it is all available. Footwear also stored. If according to you, if it is index number, then I am not writing like number. I am writing like a string. So actually that is not index number. That is property name which have the same name as index number. That's the reason you feel like and you will learn like it is index. But it is not index. We will do one more thing. Let's try to get the property type. I will write a logic here simply. Observe, just observe. For var property in categories. And I am printing console.log property. So I am printing property here. Let's run this and see. I am compiling and executing. It is printing all the properties here. You see 0, 1, 2, 3. It is printing all the properties. We will get one more clarity. We will try to get what is its type, data type. What I will do is beside it, I will give here beside it, I will put, we will put a binding expression. That means backtick. Here we are printing property. After that, I am giving in a square brace. I will use here another expression, type of property. Type of property is used to know the data type of that particular property. So data type of that particular property means I am printing the data type of 0, 1, 2, 3 also. Data type. Let's see. So tsc index.ts and node index.js. You see all type string. 0 is a string, 1 is a string, 2 is a string. I thought that it is index number. Even you learned index. You are imagining that as an index, which is not actually index. You are using it as a number, which is not actually number. It is a string. Means memory index you can't directly access. Memory index you can't directly access. For accessing memory index, we need a reference. That reference is property. And property name, index name looks the same. That is the reason you feel like it is index. But it is not index. I am just printing the type of property. Let's print the type of value inside it. That means we will print the value here. Just for your understanding sake, I will put here to print the value. I am using categories of property. Actually, it is going to print the value. Let's run this and see. Now see, it is printing the value. Yeah, you can see it is electronics, it is 10, it is true, it is footwear. These are all present in 0, 1, 2, 3, which are index, which are string type, right? Which are string type. Let's print the type of this one. What is electronics type? What is 10 type? What is true type? Let's put one more logic here. I will put a parenthesis and I will write here type of categories of property. I am writing another additional logic to get the type of data type of those values. You see now, you can see, you observe this here. You see it says electronics is a string, 10 is a number, true is a boolean, and footwear is a string. Values are different type, but property is string only. So this proves that the values are stored into an array, are accessed from an array by using their property names. By using their property names. 0, 1 index are index only. 0, 1, 2 are index only. But what you write in your program is not index. In memory, they are index only. But the same index reference will be property. That property we use. That means in the memory, 0 is index and its property reference is 0. But you never use these double quotes. You directly use 0 and you feel like you are using index. How you can access memory index? You can't. In any technology in the world, you cannot directly access memory. You need a reference. And properties are reference. By using that property reference, we access and we feel like we are using index. But this program proves that the 0, 1, 2, 3, they are not numbers. They are string. They are property names. They are not index numbers. In 0, what is stored? String. In 1, what is stored? Number. In 2, what is stored? True. In 3, what is stored? Footwear. But property type is string. Suppose you want to access any specific, I can write like this actually. So I want to print console.log. I want to print some categories of 1. I'm using string type. You never tried it. You always tried a number only inside it. So you never tried using a string. So because all these days you may be thinking like it is an index number. But I am writing as 1 and let's run this and see now. When I run that and see, it should return that 10 number. At 1, 10 is there now, it should return the 10 here. So we store values into array. We access values from the array by using values are assigned using array property name. Values are assigned by using array property name. That means actually every property is a string type. String type mapping to index in memory, which is number. Right? That means a property is mapping to index in memory and it is accessing from index. So here we have, so syntactically, we have categories. So LET categories. Suppose it is any type array. Then we allocated memory. In the categories, we said 0. Into that we stored some 10. In categories, we used 1 and into that we stored 20. That means both are valid actually. This one is also valid, this one is also valid. That means you write as a number, you write as a string, because even you write as a number, it treats as a string only internally. That means even you type as a number, internally it treats as string. That is the reason when we written a logic to read all properties and their data type, it returns the data type as string. The data type as string. So values are stored with reference of string, property name, and values are accessed also. That means console.log. I want to access, I can use categories of, you can use 0. That means like number you can write, but internally it is treating as a string. So you say console.log, categories of 1 you write as a string type, it is also valid. Both are valid. So the values are stored into an array by using property. The values are accessed from array by using property. The values are stored and accessed from array using property, and property is always a string. Property is always a string. That property maps to index number in the background. We don't use direct index numbers. We use property names, and property name will be the same name as index. Same name as index. So that is the concept. I will give this sample program just for reference sake. Later you will understand how to write for loops and all. I will just copy this. This program is to show the proof that categories properties are string type and all the values are different type. So this is the program we written, right? Here it is returning all are what type? String. And the values inside them are different. We have electronics, we have number, we have boolean, we have footwear. These are the types. That means how the types are configured. This is basic. So first point is clear. How to store a value into array and how do we access a value from array, right? That is one option. Is it clear to everyone? Right? So there is no confusion between index and property. Actually values are stored in index, but our reference is not number. Our reference is property. Properties are what type? Properties are string type. Second important, another point is you can store any type of value into array memory. You can store any type of value into array memory. That means it can be, so memory means it can be primitive type, it can be non-primitive type, or it can be even a function also. That means you can store anything in an array, because array is just memory. In that memory you can store anything, because generally sometimes the question comes, what we can store in an array? What type of value we can store in an array? You can store anything in array, because array is just a memory. You can store anything inside. A number, string, boolean, null, undefined. You can store another array inside it or an object. Currently we haven't learned object, so we can use anything inside. For example, see how we can handle array. So another example I will show here. Now what I can store in an array? So we can store, suppose this is 1, this is a number, this is 2, this is a string, and true, this is a boolean, and another array inside. And this array contains another type. That means it is containing some Delhi, so it is containing some Hyderabad, like this. That means you can store anything in array. Another, I will put a comma. You can put a function also inside array. You can put a function also inside array. Function also inside array. That means I am writing some statement here, console.log, and I will say hello from array. That is a function actually. That means you can put anything inside array. You can keep anything inside array. So any primitive type, non-primitive type, just how do we access them? Simple. Suppose now tell me how to access the city Hyderabad. How to access the city Hyderabad? What is the array name? Array name is what? Categories. Categories of at which location it is present. 0 is 1, 1 is TV, 2 is true, and 3 is array. That means at which location? 3. You write as normal number only, but it will be treated as string, right? Every time you don't need to put a quote, okay? Just 3, okay. Now in that, what is present? At 3, what is present? At 3, array is present. Then how to access array? Again a square brace. At 3, there is an array. So arrays are accessed in square brace. What is the position of Hyderabad? 1. That's how we access. So in that array again there can be array. Doesn't matter. You can have any number of arrays nested inside array another array. Now this is how we access it. Now you can see it have to return that. So tsc index.ts and node index.js. This is going to return Hyderabad. Suppose I want to access that function. Tell me how. Console.log. What is it? Categories. Categories of at which position function is present? 4 na? At 3 array is present. At 4 function. At 4 what is present? Function. How to call a function? Using a parenthesis. Because in that memory function is present. Functions are accessed with a parenthesis. Later we will learn about more detailed functions concept. But it is simple. Now you can call that function and you can see it is going to execute that. Let's compile again and run this again. Run this again. The function will be called. And see, it is showing undefined because when you are calling a function, that function directly printing console log na, then you don't need to again use console log because already it is using console log to print. Then what you have to do? Just call a function present in array. How to call? Categories of 4 at that function is there. That's how we call functions. Because that function is having an output statement, directly we call the function. That means you can see we are calling the function now. Then let's run. Then you will not get that undefined. So you are just printing the function and it is working fine. So usually you can store anything in an array. Anything can be stored in an array. Is just memory. In memory you can store anything. But depends on what type you define. You cannot say array type is string and you can store a function. To store a function or store anything else, you need to configure array as what type? Any type. That is one important option. So this is an example for that different types of values. I will copy this just for your reference sake. I will paste here. I will upload this into the classroom. So this is example for any type. Another important is actually TypeScript. TypeScript allows to access array elements using destructuring technique. using destructuring technique. TypeScript allows to access array elements by using destructuring technique. Actually, that is a new technique of latest versions of JavaScript, which TypeScript uses. So destructuring technique allows to access the array elements easily. That means how we can access. Let's see here. Suppose you see. Now, technically destructuring technique is nothing but, suppose these are all the elements in array. That means in this array, we have one, we have TV, we have true, and we have array, and another one is function. If I want to separately deal with them, lot of reference of property names are required. The 0, 1, 4. Instead of that, you can do a simple way like this. Actually, let in the square brace, we can declare variables. Like ID is variable, name is variable. So here stock is variable, cities is variable, and here hello is a variable. Into this variable, we can assign the categories. It will work. Name, I will give an uppercase letter because it is a keyword actually. Now you can see all these are simple. This is called destructuring technique. That means now what happens is, in this technique, nothing but this array categories is an array. This categories array contains one. This one is actually stored into this one. That means where it is stored in ID. And this name is stored in TV. This city stock is stored, this true. Cities is stored, this array. Hello, this function. This is destructuring. Simply you declare the names and assign the array. Automatically the array values are stored in those variables. And you can directly access which one you want. This is called destructuring of array. This is from the latest versions of JavaScript. We have this destructuring technique, which is used by TypeScript also. So now what is advantage of this? We can simply say console.log. I want to print name. I can just call the name. I don't need any property names, square brace, 0, 1, 2, not required. That means now you can see it is going to print that here. So let's compile and run this. And you can see it is going to handle that. It's a simple technique. That means this array is assigned into these variables. Whatever elements are there in the array, according to their reference, they are stored in those variables. So now what is hello? Hello is a function. So you have to just call hello as a function. That's it. We have to call it as a function. That means now it is going to execute that function here. That means it is going to run that function and display. So you can see that executes. Same concept. Previously what we have done, same concept. Previously we have used these property names. Previously we used these property references. But now we can use a destructuring technique. This is destructuring. This is previous one. Huh? Let me copy this new code. This is destructuring technique. In destructuring, you have to just assign the array into these variables. Whatever array elements are there, they are stored into this variable. So this is the technique of destructuring. So how to store values into array? What kind of values we can store in array? How to access the values from array? There are so many other techniques for reading elements from array. How to read elements from array? There are so many techniques. Previous two techniques you saw, that is individually by property name 0, 1, 2, 3. Another one you saw destructuring. Now we have some ready-made functions. We have ready-made functions like you have toString. What it will do is it returns all array elements separated with comma. It returns all elements separated with comma. You can use join as a method. So what it will do is it returns all elements separated with custom symbol. We can use a custom symbol, delimiter, your own separate join. We can use reading elements from the array. We can use slice. It returns elements between specified index reference. Index reference is what? Property 0, 1 string type, the index reference. Actually, we don't say index actual. We say index reference. Index reference is property name. So it returns based on that reference. Slice. It can slice between that. Slice is that. We have toString, we have join, we have slice. Basic points I will give here because I can't teach you entire JavaScript here, right? So key functions I am giving here. Others you will learn in JavaScript. So other functions, other options for arrays you will learn because these are all JavaScript functions, right? So technically only the way of declaring array is different. All manipulations are same as JavaScript for them. So here, how do we deal with them? Suppose we are saying let categories. Categories is a string type array. In that we will allocate some values. So some electronics, like some footwear, like some fashion, something like this. And we want to print them console.log. We can use categories.toString. We can use toString. What toString is going to do is it is going to return all these array elements separated with comma. It can read all the elements separated with comma. We can use another console.log. We can use categories.join. Join can use a custom separator. That means you can use your own separator. Any symbol you can use. Join and which symbol? And you can see it is going to print with that symbol. That means first one is toString, second one is join. It will print with that. You can use a custom delimiter. You can access based on specified index, console.log, categories.what, slice. Slice from, you see, it is asking start number and end number. Start number, end number. So, and we are giving the start number. So we are giving start number 1, end number is 2, right? So you see now here it is going to read and return 1 to 2 means it will not return the second one. It will return only 1. What is that one? Footwear. That means you can get based on the index numbers, right? So this is actually, suppose you return 1 and you return 2. Now you have a problem. Why? Because this function is not using properties. This function is using numbers. This function is using numbers. That is what index reference. Index reference means you have to use a number. You have to use a number. That is very important. That means when you are individually accessing, you can use properties. And when you are accessing through any methods, that depends on method type. They designed the method in such a way that that method can access directly index reference, because in the background they return the code for that. In the background they return the code to get the index value and return. That is the reason you don't need to write. If you have to write, you cannot directly write to index. You have to write to properties. right? So here we are using that. So these are the methods: toString, join, and slice. So syntactically example, first we will give here. These are basic methods. First, I will give these basic methods. This is one option. For reading elements from an array, we have so many other things, any other techniques also. We can use find. We can use filter. By using find and filter also, we can read the values from an array. What is find and filter is nothing but actually finds, it returns the first occurrence element in array, that matches the given condition. That means what it can do is it can search for values in an array and it can return the value which is matching. And it will not return all values. It will return only the value which is matching and which is the first occurrence. I will show you that. Filter is same. It is same like find, but can return all elements. Return all elements that match given condition. So to read elements from an array, you have find and filter. And find is a new option actually. That is the reason if you try to use find, it will warn you. It will say that this is a new method you are trying. So this is not there in old versions. Please check whether your JavaScript version is supporting this find or not. It will warn you. But you don't need to worry because you are using latest version. In spite of that warning, you can directly run it. No problem. I will show you here. See. What find and filter difference is how they work actually is see. Suppose I am creating LET sales is a number type array. Into that we have some 34,000, 56,000 and so 36,000 and 52,000 and 67,000. So here what I want to do is I want to return the sales which is greater than 50,000. Actually, this is a simple data. Later we will learn complex data. Then we can do more filters on that. That means we can filter all employees whose designation is some manager. We can get all products whose category is electronics. Like that we can do a lot of filters. But for that we need data also. Currently data we know only simple number type, string type. Later we will learn complex data types. Then we can handle them. Initially, you see, I want the sales which is greater than 50,000. Then what we do is we will use a simple technique here. So var result. So result is equal to var let anything we can use result. So this result so is returning. So what you are expecting to return, we are expecting to return. Find command means how many values it will return. Find means it will return the first occurrence element. That means how many values we are expecting? Only one. And what type of data you are expecting? Number. That means result is what type? Number type. So we will use sales dot find method. And in the find method, we have to write a logic. Find uses a function. That means we will use a function here. This function in the find, what it will do is, it will read every value. That means it is going to read every value. Every value means what it is going to do? It is going to read every value. Understood? It will read the first value, second value, third value. It will read every value. After reading every value, what we have to do is we need to return only the value which is greater than 50,000. Understood? That means what is this find command? Find command, what it is doing, it is reading, it is using a function. This function read the first value. After reading the first value, it will verify is the value greater than 50,000. The value is not greater than 50,000, then it will go to the second one. If a second value is greater than 50,000, this matching, then it will store that value in result. It will store the value in result. And observe here, it is showing some error. It is saying that until you supply value, what will be the value? Don't know. Sometimes if value is not found, whatever condition you return, what it will return? Undefined. Last session we learned now. Dynamically, if you are supplying value, null. Statically, if there is no value supplied, then it will be number or what type? Undefined type. Because if condition matching related any value not present, what it will return? It will return as undefined. That is the reason we have to use number and undefined. Now observe carefully here. Will it return 52,000 and 60,000 also? No. It will not return. It will return only the first occurrence value. After returning this, it will stop. That means find is not for returning all. It is only for the first occurrence element that matching the given condition. That means now let's print what is in result. That means console.log. We will print what is in result. Let's print what is in result and see here. So you can run this tsc and node index.js. It is showing, see, the error is not related to your logic. Error, observe, it is saying that find doesn't exist. Find doesn't exist. And it is saying that you need a library which is earlier than 2015 of ES, JavaScript. That means it is not a problem. It is just telling you that your TypeScript is using an advanced method called find, which is newly added into JavaScript. That is not there, the versions 215 and higher versions only, it is available. Already we are using 215 and higher version, no problem. So what you have to do, don't care about this error. Later I will show you how to suppress these errors, right? As of now, you don't need to worry. Node index.what.js, it will return that 56,000. That means that error, you don't worry. Why? Because that is related to just compiler target. That means it is saying that, are you sure you are using ES15 and higher version, because find is not available in old, right? It is just giving us a warning, right? These warnings we will suppress when we are using TypeScript in our Angular. For that, we will learn some techniques, how to do that. Initially, find is not returning all. It is returning only one. Just to change this find to filter and see. That means I will copy this code first for your example sake. This is find, same you use filter. Just replace this find method with filter. Replace the find with filter. Then let's run this and see. Now we are expecting multiple, more than one. Then this declaration is wrong. Am I right? Because it is declaring number, only one type now. But what is the result? Result is multiple. That means you have to define as an array. Because the result is more than one value. Filter is going to return all the values that are matching the condition. Now I will save this, and you see now I will compile and run this. When I compile this, you can see it is not showing any error because filter is an old option. It is available. Find is newly added. So now when I run this, you can see it is returning all values. 56, 52, 67 that are matching the conditions. You can write the conditions and verify the values and return them. This is basically another one. So filter will return more than one value. So number array. Find is going to return only one value. That is why it is number. So these are the methods used for reading values from array. We can use other techniques, like you can use F for of iterator. We can use F for of iterator. In order to read the values, you can use a for of iterator. For of is nothing but it is used to read and return all values from array. For of is used to return all values from array. You can use another iterator called for in iterator. For in iterator, it is used to read and return all properties from array. Properties from array. For of is used for returning all values. For in is used for returning all properties. We can use these iterators. What is difference? These are not loops. Loop is different, iterator is different. That means in your computer programming languages, loops or iterators, that is wrong. Loops and iterators. Loop is different, iterator is different. Right? So loops are different, iterators are different. Loop and iterator both are not same. What is difference actually is, generally for loop will be there, for iterators will be there. Difference actually is, difference is nothing but, I will save this diagram for your notes. Let's give on to this desktop. This is array, right? So actually, what is the loop and arrays? Generally, usually you will have loops. Loops concept is every loop compulsory needs an initializer. Every loop must have an initializer. Every loop must have a condition. And every loop must have a counter. But iterators doesn't require. Iterator doesn't require. Iterator doesn't require initialization, condition, and counter. So iterators are more faster than loops. Actually, iterator is nothing but, it is a software design pattern used to access elements from a collection in sequential order. It is a software design pattern. Loop and iterators both are not same. Actually, generally, loops are written like this. For we need initialization, like where I is equal to 0, I less than or equal to some 10. Means, for example, we have array dot length. So less than array dot length. Then we have I plus plus. That is what actually loop nature is. Loop requires an initialization, condition, and counter. You have to tell where to start, you have to tell where to stop, you have to tell how to proceed. But in loops, in iterators, we don't do that. Simply where item, here we say where item of collection. That is simple. That means it will read every item from the collection and store in item. If there are items to read, it will start reading. After starting reading, it will automatically proceed to next until end. After end, it will stop. You don't need a condition. You don't need an initialization. You don't need a counter. These are called iterators. Iterators doesn't require initialization, condition, and counter. Loops only required. While, for, do while, these are all loops. Those are loops. They compulsory need a initialization, condition, and counter. Iterators doesn't require. And we mostly prefer iterators in modern scripting. In modern scripting, we don't prefer loops and all. Time waste. We prefer all iterators, which are more faster, implicit they are. Right? For example, with loops we can do, but we don't do any time waste work in features modern programming, right? Loops are for different purpose, not for values, reading elements from array and all. Because you see here, see, suppose I want to read all the elements. LET categories is a string type array. Into that we have some categories, electronics, like footwear, like fashion, something like this we have defined. We want to read all of them, just simple. For if I have to use a loop, then iterators are simple. Loop means where I equal to 0, because index starts with 0 of that I less than categories dot length. That means how many elements are there. Then I plus plus. Then what we have to do, console.log categories of I. That is how we have to read. That is how we have to read. That means categories 0, categories 1, categories 2. This is loop. This is loop. That means I will just put a console log to show you a simple statement. This is loops. So that means using a loop, how we are reading. So this is, I say using loops. Right, using iterator, I will put another line, console.log by using iterator, using iterator. Using iterator. Iterator is a very simple concept here. Simple for where item of categories. That means we are reading every item from categories and console.log item. Print that item. That's it. No initialization, no condition, no counter, nothing. It knows where to start. It knows where to stop. It knows how to proceed. Internally, it manages everything. These are iterators. Now you can see here, when I run this now, when we run this, so tsc index.ts and node index.js, and you can see both are working same. One using a loop, another one using an iterator. Later, if you write a multi-threading program and see how much time it is taken, you will see iterators will be in less time. Right? Technically, that is the concept of iterator. But what is for off? You can use for off. We can use for loop also. For loop is it is used to read using initialization, initializer, so condition and counter. Right? So what is difference between for off and for in? For off is for reading all values. For in is for reading all properties. What are properties of array? Properties of array means 0, 1, 2. Those are the properties. That means you see here, suppose I am using another option here. Let's say, so console.log, so properties. So iterator for properties. How to use iterator for properties, I will show you here. Just what you have to do is for where property in the categories. In the categories, console.log, we have to print the property. That means it is going to print all the properties here. Let's see. This is going to compile first, and we are going to run it, and it is going to print all the properties 0, 1, 2. That means iterator for values, iterator for properties. If you want both properties and values, then you can put a simple thing. Here we are writing the simple logic like this. We are printing property. After the property is what? 0, 1, 2. After that, I am using a space. And here, what I am doing is, I am using another expression. What is the array name? Array name is categories. Categories of property. That means categories of 0, categories of 1, categories of 2 means its values. So we are writing a logic for both values as well as properties. Now you can see it is going to read both values and properties also. That means we will compile here and it is going to return. So both values and properties, both values and properties. property is 0, 1, 2, and the value is electronic footwear and fashion. So in modern programming of JavaScript and TypeScript, we depend on all iterators very much, no loops. You will never see anybody in JavaScript using a loop for writing, accessing elements from an array. That is time waste thing in the modern generation. So you better use all these iterators. This is one simple example for all the three things. So I written here in this example, how do we use a loop? How do we use this is for loops, and this is for iterator, and this is for properties and values. So this is one simple thing to understand how we can read the data from an array. Now, next important is another important, adding values, adding new elements into array. How we can add new elements into an array, right? New elements are added into array by using methods like push. We have like unshift, and we have like splice. These three are used: push, unshift, and splice. Push adds a new element as last item, and unshift it adds a new element or elements, one or many, new elements as first item or items. That is actually one or many you can add. Splice is nothing but it adds a new element or elements at a specified location. Wherever you want, you can add. So push is for adding an item and as a last item, and unshift as a first item, and splice anywhere you want. For example, you see here in the same program, I will do one thing here. So I will remove other iterators. I will keep only one iterator, and I will keep this in a square brace, so that actually these are the elements we have. Compile and run, and you can see this is what we are having. This is electronics, footwear, and fashion. Let me remove this title also, not required. Fine. Now I want to add a new item into this. Means electronics, footwear, fashion. I want to add a new item into this. Then before looping, what I am doing here, so I will simply use categories. Categories is array dot push, and you can add one item or many items. Just you have to put here, suppose some electronics, footwear, fashion, and we will say suppose some accessories, something. Now you see it is going to add. Let's run this and see. You will see that accessories is added. Accessories is added as a last item. Accessories is at 3. Suppose if I am using, instead of push, I am using unshift. Unshift means it will add as first item. That means accessories will be added as first item. You can add one or many items. Here you can see accessories is at first location. And the splice, it allows you to add at specific index, but unsplice syntax is actually, when you are using splice, syntax for splice will be like this. So array dot splice, we have to define the index to add, and here what is the where to add, and you have to define so count of items to delete the end. We have to add new items. This is how we need to configure. This is the syntax actually. Where to add and how many to delete from there and what to add. These are the 3 things you have to mention when you are using a splice. splice. So for example, I want to add these accessories. I want to add the accessories after electronics. That means if I remove these accessories, electronics will be 0. Then I want to add the accessories after electronics. After electronics means, so we will put here splice index number. After electronics we want to add. That means index number is 1. And already at 1 footwear is there. What should happen to footwear? You have to tell. 0 means don't delete anything. 1 means delete footwear. 2 means delete 2 items from there. Right? How many you want to delete? You can mention. Nothing to delete. 0. Don't delete anything. Add the new item here. Accessories is the new item we are defining. That means where to add, how many to remove, and which one to add. If there is more than one to add, you can add another. You can add another. So suppose I am adding so kitchen, or say car, something like car accessories. So here I said some bike accessories like this. And you see now these are added in that particular index position. That means first will be electronics. And second and third will be bike and car accessories. You can add at any place you want. You can add one or many. That is done by using splice. Splice compulsory requires this option to configure. This is splice. Example is this. So how we can push, how we can add a new item, push, unshift, and splice. Similarly, we have removing elements from array. These all are daily activities in our Angular in future. Every day we have to work with this. In real world projects also, majority of Angular people's work will be with arrays. Every day work will be arrays. You need to be very, very strong in all types of manipulations of arrays. Very complex arrays will come, which you will see in the next level, right? Usually remove elements from array, same options. We have pop. Pop is nothing but it removes last item. We have shift, it removes first item. You have splice again. Splice is it removes specified item. That is how we can do. That means splice is used for both adding and removing. So pop is removing the last item. So and shift is for removing the first item. And splice is for removing specified item. That means here you see currently only 3 categories are there. So currently only 3 categories are there. And I want to remove electronics. Then I will simply use categories.pop, right? And you run this and see, that means electronics is removed. It removes the electronics. Which one? Pop is last one, na? Right? So pop is removing the last one. Shift is removing the first one. That means if I use shift, then it will remove the first. Remove the first one. Last one fashion is removed. And here we will compile again and it will remove the first one. So we can add that first one, electronics is removed. Suppose we want to remove any specific item, then same. Suppose I want to remove footwear, then what we have to do? So we need to use categories dot what? Splice. Splice from index 1. How many to remove? 1. That's it. Right? That means from one index it will remove 1. Right? That's, you can remove 2, 3, your wish. You can mention any count there. That means it is going to return this. You can see. And it is going to return these options, and that is electronics and fashion. So this footwear is removed. So we can use the splice for removing items. So for specific index, that is very important. This is another example for that. So we have adding elements, removing elements, reading elements. One more regularly used, sorting elements. Sorting elements. We have two methods. One is sort, another one is reverse. We have sort and reverse. Sort is actually in ascending order. Ascending order. Reverse is not descending order. It is reverse order. Reverse order of how they are arranged. They are arranged. Reverse order of how they are arranged. That means bottom to top, not descending order. So sort will do ascending, but reverse is not descending. It is reverse order of how they are arranged. That means, for example, suppose to make it clean, here I am using just I am writing some categories, or we will put here, yeah, some city names I will give just for your reference sake. I am giving, suppose D and A and C and B, like this I am given. And before printing them, I am using, actually they will print exactly how they are mentioned. That means you can see they are printed in the same way how they are defined. They are printed in the same way, D, C, A, B. Now just what we are doing here, we are just using categories dot sort. Categories dot sort. Then you can see, compile, it is going to display. It is going to display in ascending order, A, B, C, D. It will arrange those elements in ascending order. And very important is, suppose if I use reverse, this is not descending order. It will be B, C, A, D. That means the reverse order of how they arrange. That is not descending order actually. It is reverse order of how they are arranged. That means let's compile and run and see, that is the reverse order of how they are arranged. Reverse order, B, C, A, D. Then how to display descending order? Simple. First categories dot sort, sort, after that reverse. That means first it will arrange ascending order. That ascending order will be reverse. Ascending order reversed means descending order. That means directly if you use reverse, it will be in reverse order. But you sort and reverse, that means it will first sort and then display in reverse order. Then it is going to display in this way. That means it is going to present in this way. D, C, B, A. That's how sorting happens in array. These are all some important array methods. This is nothing related to actually TypeScript. All are in JavaScript. Same we use in TypeScript also. Because you may not have some awareness on that. That's the reason I given complete list here, basically. Because all the array methods are same in JavaScript, right? So we have learned how to deal with arrays, right? Data type array. Now we have another type, objects and maps, that we will see in next session. Tomorrow we will do that, right? In tomorrow's session, we will discuss about how to deal with other data types. Now, once we finish data types, then we can go into OOP concepts. Operator statements list I will give, then we will go into OOPs, right? After OOPs only, we can go into Angular, right? To go into Angular, we have to finish OOP concepts, right? Tomorrow we'll continue, right?